Participate in a conversation with once conservative, now liberal Midwest mastered prepared special education high school teacher and a self-proclaimed devil's advocate, East Coast conservative liberal, baccalaureate prepared registered nurse. These two strangers met, became instant friends, and realized their conversations are candid and epic. So join us weekly, ask us questions, and listen to these profoundly candid friends try to solve the world's problems, one discussion at a time.
Hey, welcome to another excellent episode of The New Theory with Monet and Jared, aka TNT with MJ. I am Jared.
I'm Monet.
And together we are teaching minds
and nurturing souls.
And we're going to start off by acknowledging the fact that no, we did not record last week. So no, there was not an episode last week. So for that, we apologize. We don't normally do that, especially when we're, getting into our rhythm. Just with the weather and the schedule of last week and everything just as wonky as it was, even in my own lesson plans as a teacher, I had to just, what was last week's lessons are now this week's lessons.
Yeah, right.
So, so kind of, we had to make last week a wash. So that's kind of what we're doing here. So we apologize. I think everybody got affected with that weather and we just kind of hunkered down and kind of enjoyed ourselves, if you will.
Yes.
So with that being said, we want to take a minute and it may be more than a minute, but we want to take a minute and definitely acknowledge the fact that this is the first time we're recording in February, which we want to say, I don't want to say Happy Black History Month because Black history is American history and it shouldn't be more than a month. It should be more than a month.
Exactly.
There shouldn't even be a month. I'm sorry. It should be Black history should be top period.
Yes.
But that goes into a conversation that we'll probably be hitting on later. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Monet.
And so when we were discussing earlier, like Jared just mentioned, the Black History Month, we also want to acknowledge that there's a way that education can be, our history can be melted together. I mean, we have Native American history, we have Asian, Pacific Islander American history, we have Hispanic history. There's so much. I mean, like the acquisition or the partnership with Puerto Rico, that is real history that needs to be discussed because people don't understand how now this country, this island is now and is that's identified as a country in certain regards, is also an American colony. Oh, territory. I mean, I don't know, like Guam, like a Pacific Islander, like, oh, wow. Yeah, we need to talk about these things so that we as Americans can understand what the hell is going on and what has gone on without making people feel, without making the fragile people feel as though they're being robbed of something. Okay.
Like they're being discriminated against.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Jared. Because I was gonna say, when we were talking earlier, you're watching a docu-series or something like that. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what is it about?
It's a 6-part docu-series on that CBSN did. That it's called Indivisible Healing Hate, and it centers around the J6 insurrection and making historical connections to the history of white supremacy in this country.
So essentially, January 6th was like a pimple that popped. Keg. Yeah, right. It's like, boom.
That was the powder keg. But it's not going to be the first one because each act of white supremacy has just been larger in scale. I mean, you start with Timothy McVeigh. Even before that, there was a standoff in northern Arkansas. For the life of me, I think it's the I can't remember the name of the group, but it's Christian arm of the something. It's a white supremacy group that was based in Mountain View, Arkansas. And yeah, I'm wearing an Arkansas shirt, so I should acknowledge the fact that, so It's the hogs,
The
man.
hogs.
It's,
I was about to say,
let's leave it there.
if you know
That's
Jared,
where my love goes.
man, that is his love right there. Go ahead, sorry.
I love my hogs. It's all good. But yeah, no, Mountain View, Arkansas, and yeah, it was a bloody standoff, almost a prelude, if you will, to Waco, if you remember Waco.
I remember Waco.
Waco. I mean, the only thing that separated the two was that Waco, the feds burned the place down, but in this one, they just shot everybody up. I'm not saying that was a good thing that they did or a bad thing. Nonetheless, I'm not making any judgment on the act of the federal or the agencies that were involved in that. I'm just saying that white supremacy has a history in this nation. And even if you want to go before that, you go into the formation of the KKK as a result of a movie, the very first movie ever released. What was it? American Nation. I think that's what it's called. American Nation. Birth of a Nation. That's it. But be that as it may, you go from Timothy McVeigh with the OKC bombing, my point being that each one escalates. There was another one in the 90s, and for the life of me, I can't remember which one it was. And then, but point being, J6 is not just a powder keg, but it's a prelude to something bigger that's coming. That
could potentially happen.
Yeah, exactly.
If we don't acknowledge like these patterns in this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's being, the thing. I mean, we got to teach history. We got to teach that history.
Sorry.
No, you're good. But what Monet is getting at is I think what Monet is getting at is the last episode that I watched yesterday was so profound, extremely profound. And this is one thing that I didn't mention to Monet in our pre-conversation is that, and this picture went viral. If you recall, in the early protests of 2020 after George Floyd's death there in Minnesota, that there was a picture that, again, it went viral. It was of a white man screaming in the face of a black woman who was there protesting, and she had her mask on. She was looking dead in the eye. Do you recall that?
I remember. Yes. This was during George Floyd protests, Black Lives Matter.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a very poignant picture.
They interviewed both of those people.
Yeah.
They interviewed the white man and the black woman. And what was so profound to me is that he recognized his wrong. Wow. He formed a relationship with this woman.
Wow.
Not necessarily, not like, relationship.
I know, but still,
they formed a friendship together. Yeah, they're friends, and they visit, and he's learning perspective. He's growing. He took it upon himself, and what triggered him to do that was the actual picture in and of itself.
Wow.
He was ashamed of his actions. He wasn't, that was in his head, that's like, that's not my intention, but then it's there in black and white, no pun intended. Well, maybe every pun intended, but still. and he's like, no, I don't. And it's really because he just got all the backlash he got. He was identifiable.
And it's a shame.
And they just the what, cyber ninjas, I don't know what you want to call them, the internet, whatever. I mean, Twitter just ran him through the mud,
ripped him a new one.
Ripped him a new one. And she's an advocate. We got to stand up for her. We got to support her. He's all these other things. And so that changed. That flipped a switch in that guy's head, and he recognized his wrong. So go ahead. No. There's another. No, I've got another example, but go ahead.
So when we talk about these things, it's like I've had conversations with Black people, and we're talking about white supremacy, but then there's like a whole group of Black people and I was one of them with regards to starting a conversation
Mhm.
that mentioned segregation.
Yeah.
And saying, I even heard it to the extent where I heard a Black person say that was the worst thing. Integration was the worst thing that's ever happened to the African American community or Black community. And I'm like, you know what? To some extent, you're right. Unfortunately, the horse is out the barn, and there's nothing we can do about that. So as opposed to
Yeah.
trying to revert back to separatist ways, why don't, if we want to continue to use that dialogue as far as separation, let's
Yeah.
start acknowledging each other's humanity and separating against those that are ignorant as opposed to those that are, and I get criticized for my desire to live in a utopia. I'm not going to give it up. That's just something I want, because I like being a good person. I like being a kind person.
Well, and
What are
you
you
and
gonna
I were
say?
talking about this. Oh no, you and I were talking about this earlier. And I, for one, I for one dream of a world where people recognize experts as experts and trusted them at their word when they said something was happening.
Exactly.
Or,
Science.
I'm just like, science is real. Teachers are experts, man. We go through. I'm telling you, if I've heard, and this is, I'm digressing. This is not part, we didn't plan for this, but be that as it may, um, there's actually legislation on the books in Oklahoma, Iowa, more than likely Florida, but there's legislation on the books in several states that require teachers to post their plans for the year.
There's no way
in July,
there's no way
before we're even required to return to the classroom. Are you kidding me? You know why?
Why? Because of
It's
CRT.
because parents want to monitor or want to police the teachers and see if there's anything objectionable on their lesson plan for the year, so that way they can cry foul, or hopefully they don't. I don't know. Bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm not. If Arkansas, I'm telling you, if Arkansas passes such legislation, I'm done.
Listen,
I'm done.
It's
and
it's
I'm kind
disheartening.
of well, yeah, it is disheartening. It is disheartening. But anyway,
I mean,
go ahead.
There's parameters that teachers have to teach within so that your child can excel to the next level and be prepared for this world as a whole, so that they can become leaders in their own rightful profession and perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, as I said, my point being is, trust the experts.
Yes.
I mean,
trust the experts. And that goes across the board.
As a special education teacher, I had to get 2 master's degrees to do what I do. Just to do what I do.
I trust, earned the autonomy.
And I guarantee you there's other teachers out there who have got their master's degrees. For those that don't know out there, that's 6 years of college or post high school education. And then on top of that, we have to get 60 hours of professional development every year. Every year. I'm just saying. So that's 60 hours additional of outside education that we have to do what we do, on top of the degrees that we've already gotten to do what we want to do. So my point being, trust the experts. So if educators are having to do that, imagine what the fucking medical professionals are having to go through. Trust the medical experts. If they have doctor in front of their name, they probably know what they're talking about.
I mean, and you can always get a second opinion. No one's trying to take that away. And don't take that second opinion individual
from Joe Rogan.
Yeah, right. But hey, poor Spotify is going through it right now. Artists are saying, pull my music if you're going to continue to, host this individual. And it's like, I know we jumped to slightly, but it's paralleling with the fact that, Jaron and I talked about a couple of hospitals in the Midwest saying, hey, if you didn't get vaccinated, don't come in. Exactly. If you're sick and you didn't get vaccinated, don't come in. And, they're like, how are you a medical professional? And it's like, why are you endangering our lives? Like, we took the necessary precautions to protect ourselves. What the fuck are you doing? Exactly. And that's very like, damn. But at the same time, do you blame them? If you felt as though your convictions were strong enough to keep you away, then what do you think we're going to do? All they're going to do is
Exactly.
pump you with a super dose of the virus, of the vaccine.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know what else. I try to tell people I identify with them. I said, but I did have to take into consideration these were scientific this was scientific research across the world. It wasn't just America. This was like researchers from all over the world that have no financial gain.
This was an international event.
Yes. They have no financial gain. They have no desire to guinea pig people. And when I tell patients, I felt the effects of the medication work immediately. And I'm a huge advocate, of it. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, people are like, I can't believe you got your kids. I can't believe you got your kids vaccinated. Well, one of my children was like, I want it, and I don't care what you say because I'm of the age where I can get it. Mm-hmm. And the other kid was like, well, there's a lot of kids in my school with COVID, Mom. I want to protect myself. So I don't know what else to tell people. And I mean, I wouldn't necessarily like applaud hospitals for turning away patients, but at the same time, I am a hospital worker, and I kind of slightly identify with it because I feel like the knowledge, the research, and the information is out there, and you have compassionate healthcare workers. I mean, people are tired. Well, I mean, we're tired.
Yeah, I mean, you taking into consideration. I mean, just a subset of medical professionals, the pulmonologists who actually do the lung testings and stuff.
Yeah.
And COVID being a respiratory infection, a respiratory virus, now, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah, in 2 years we've learned
and so
starting to systemic.
You got the patient right there about to get tested, and the professional in front of them was like, "Have you gotten vaccinated? No. Why are you here?"
Yeah, exactly. You didn't believe in the virus.
No, yes. I'm not going to test your lungs because the odds are, go ahead, roll that dice, baby, go ahead, but no, go.
Yeah, when you were well
informed.
Yes,
well, I'm saying well, I think you were going, I get, sorry,
no, when you were better, no, you're fine.
Yeah,
sorry,
but point being, I mean, the information was out there from the fucking experts,
period.
And from the top down.
Exactly.
From the top down, from our leadership down, it got completely wacko. I don't know what other word to call it. I mean, just asinine.
It is wacko.
Ridiculous notions. Excuse me.
Horse tranquilizers.
Horse bleach.
And fun.
Hosting COVID parties so maybe everybody gets sick and we can just be done with it. Are you kidding me? Oh man.
Look.
But that goes back to, I mean, all this saying is it just all ties to education.
It does.
It all ties
to education. I mean, think about it. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, please.
No. I was just saying education, even when we're talking about the photo of the man, the enraged man over the woman that's just looking at him and like, what you gonna do? And it's like,
by the way, real quick side note, in the interview, she said the reason she did that is she recalled her late dad's words, where he told her, if that situation ever happens, you look them dead in the eye so they know you're human.
Wow, isn't that fucked up?
And she kept lock on him. Didn't say anything, didn't back down, lock on him, remembering her dad's words.
First of all, that's beautiful. But when I said it's fucked up, it's like you have to remind another human that you're fucking human. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it's like, how do we explain to the world? Like, we're talking about segregation. I'll say it again, I'd rather segregate against an ignorant person as opposed to, someone that's not. I'd rather segregate against hatred, because like I said, you can sit here and say, hey, Black lives were better when, we had, but the thing is, there's people of all walks of life that are amazing and beautiful. And then there's people that are not of all walks of life, of all racial, ethnic backgrounds. And I rather segregate away from the ignorant, nasty, negative, hate-filled people and kind of congregate with those of likeness. I don't want to look at, I don't want to look at race. And I love having my oppositional views. I love leading my life more towards positivity and goodness. And if I fall short, at least I was in the process of desiring it and trying to achieve it and being and replicating it. Do you know what I'm saying? As opposed to sitting and hoping and waiting and fearing that it's not going to happen. I'd rather be optimistic and saying, you know what, it will happen because I'm doing the best I can to be a good person and to move myself to try to educate as many people. Because some people just don't. When they get to the stance where they don't want to be educated, you just kind of got to leave them where they're at and just move away, because the distance will give them time to ask themselves, you know, why is nobody talking to me? Why is nobody bothering with me? Yeah, well, look at you.
No, it's interesting you bring that up. No, it's interesting you bring that up because in the docuseries, there's actually an individual who is a member of the Aryan Nation or Brotherhood or Aryan Brotherhood or whatever it's called. Brotherhood of the Aryan. I don't care.
You don't care. It's a piece
white
of shit
supremacy
ass.
group. Yeah,
Right?
there you go. But they interviewed him, but he's a former member, and he actually modeled what he did after he set off and he got news coverage in his local area, but it obviously didn't go national because I don't quite remember it. But not to say that I paid attention to national news back then, but be that as it may, I barely recalled it when they presented the docuseries. Is my point. But he had set off a pipe bomb and caused some destruction. I think he blew up a church or something like that, and spent some time in jail and spent most of that time in solitary. Guess what? You're not being fed that radicalization.
No.
So now you got time to think. Now you got time to reflect. Now you got time to introspect, you know? And he came out realizing that what he was fed was BS.
Yeah.
And is helping other people in similar situations, you know, and helping de-radicalize individuals. So that, I mean, to your point, it's possible. And it's just interesting that if you unplug from that source of information that you're getting to make you think and feel the way you do, you might be able to realize that, hey, there's a bigger picture out there. There's a bigger world out there. There's more humanity out there than what is being presented to you in this tunnel vision of information resource, whatever it is you're getting information from.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you're focused on that. Now, if you're getting information from, I mentioned Joe Rogan. If you're listening to Rogan and Tucker Carlson and all these other guys, yeah, I'm going to call them out. I don't care. Whatever. If you're going to listen to those guys, but then at the same time, you're going to listen to NPR, PBS NewsHour, CBS, because CBS is rather neutral in my opinion. I mean, they just present the facts.
Period.
They ask questions to the experts, and then you're left to make your own decisions after that. But they don't commentate a whole lot, if anything, if any, on any one topic. So it's that I get a lot. So those are my three news sources, by the way.
Yes, I like NPR.
So just it's
PBS.
public, yeah, NPR, public information, you know, it's not being sponsored by any one side, any one group, you know. I highly recommend supporting your local NPR station, which we do, by the way. But
excuse me.
All that being said, if you're able to unplug from that one radicalization information source, you're going to see that there's a bigger world out there. Case in point, another example, I said this earlier, that there's another example that I would like to bring up, but from the docuseries, a former leader of one of the largest national white supremacy groups out there, if not the largest. Again, former, I can't stress that enough. He was this group's leader for like 20 plus years. And obviously in his last year, he was part of a documentary that a young woman of Indian descent, so brown-skinned woman, she was conducting this interview, or doing this documentary to interview really those people who think that because she has brown skin, she is inferior and therefore they hate her or whatever else. So she wanted to know, why is it because of my skin that you hate me so much? Exactly. Was the ultimate question. And so this former leader agreed to the interview. And during the interview, she asked him, because apparently he was making some complaints about the US economy and stuff like that, and how whites are affected by it. But
my favorite.
Yeah, my people, whatever. I don't care. I don't know necessarily whatever. I mean, I've heard it all, you know.
Yeah, right,
I say that I'm not by any stretch an expert, but I've heard enough to like guess probably what he was saying. But be that as it may, she asked, so with all you're complaining about the economy, doesn't the negativity also impact me? He had nothing to say. Nothing. And from that question, that one question flipped the switch.
Sparked. Yeah. Sparked some.
And so he started looking. He started looking at his own beliefs and his own, party's beliefs, and just recognized the fallacy, for lack of a better word. I don't know if he called it, but he called it just I forgot how he labeled it, but he recognized the BS for the BS, and ended up forming a relationship, another friendship, developed after that. He left the group, denounced it, and is now head of a nonprofit organization helping other individuals such as himself to de-radicalize.
And it's sad because it sparks like human, like you have to show that you're also a human. Like, damn, you've been indoctrinated to believe that people different from you are not human, that they don't bleed the same, that they don't cry the same, that they don't fear the same, that they don't have I'm telling you, it's so abstract when we watch videos. It was 9/11, Fahrenheit 9/11, regardless what your political belief system was or how you view anything. When I watched the documentary and they showed Iraqi life prior to the Americans coming to try to find Saddam Hussein, they showed like people just living, shopping, laughing, birthday parties, carnivals, like Ferris wheel. And I was like, these people are just living. And here we are for the betterment of them. We're going to totally dismantle their lifestyle and say we're doing it in pursuit of justice and fairness. In the name of democracy. And it's like, how are you throwing your lives on someone else? I'm not saying, Saddam Hussein having raids on people's homes, was better, but who says American society is better? We call these countries third world countries, but they don't have, their carbon footprint is nothing compared to ours. Their gluttonism, their greed, and their level of hatred is nowhere near ours, and it's like, I love people. So to say I love this country is a waste of energy, because I love people. I love the world. How about that?
Well, and you've made it clear that you do love this country. We've had this conversation
very much, yes,
a few times before, yeah.
And the thing is, I think we hold it to a higher standard because we have the capacity to be so much better than what we are. If we have this, if people want to be in this country, obviously for so many reasons, economics, healthcare, whatever. Okay, the better, the acquisition of a proper capitalism, but our capitalism is still very far from where it should be. We have to recognize that we have a responsibility to the world to also be better humanitarians, especially to ourselves. Okay.
Yep.
When we talk about, we're going to keep saying it with education, when it comes to our country burning books and telling teachers, we got to look at your curriculum for a whole year. What you're saying is you don't even trust the education system in which you gave these individuals certification to do what they're doing. Okay. You don't trust that they have the betterment of our future in their hands, and they know they want the children to go forth and be as, when we look at talking about Black history and all the inventions that Black Americans created out of necessity, out of the betterment of people, it wasn't, they have a significant amount of inventions coming from this demographic.
One of them, I mean, case in point, oh God, I wish I could remember the guy's name, and I'm sorry that I forget his name.
That's
but
all right.
the without the filament created by a Black man, Thomas Edison's light bulb would not have worked.
Now, with that being said, and people argue but and then there's God knows how many inventions that a white person said, oh, well, you're Black and I'll just take it. And there's no argument because you don't even have the footing.
Well, shit, that's happening on TikTok now. Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, but with all of that, it takes individuals that have been isolated or out of society to say we still want to be a part of the society. It takes individuals, their creativity to say, this is for us as a whole. This is betterment. The security systems. People, how many of us have security systems in our house? I mean, and the list goes on, right? But it's not like, oh, these people are better. No, this is us. This is all of us. This is us.
Yeah.
And we need to share it. We need to recognize. I mean, and people, if you feel inside of you like, no, I don't, then you're also a part of the problem.
Yeah.
And you may not look at it that way, but you're doing exactly what you don't like. The separatist mentality, the I'm better than you. Are you a good person? Because that's really the staple. Jared and I had a conversation the other day where we talked about now from henceforth, when we fill out applications, on the gender line, we're putting human. On the race line, we're putting human. There's no more, I'm not feeding into this, why do you need this? I understand statistical analysis and what works in females is different than males, and what works for African Americans or Black people are different in Caucasians and Asians and stuff. I get that. However, if you're doing it purely to what? For politics, you don't need to know who I am. I'm an American citizen that voted. That's it. I'm a human that said this is the best. I'm not doing it there. When it comes to a job application, you don't need to know. Am I qualified? Am I a good person to do it? That's what you need to know. Okay. Exactly. Other than that,
evaluate me on my qualifications and what I've done.
Thank you. Not based on anything else. And that's
and even then, I refuse to be. You could look at it as I refuse to be another check in a box, because you go to the there's I forget his name. I think his first name is Brian. His last cannot be Brian.
Sorry,
but no, you're good. But he has filed a lawsuit against the NFL claiming racial discrimination and stuff like that in regards to the
coaching.
There's a rule for it, but there's a specific rule that requires organizations in the NFL to at least interview applicants of different ethnic backgrounds. And so that doesn't mean that they get the job. They just, hey, because you check that black, that African American box, or that other, that Hispanic box, or the Native American box. If you hit, we're going to interview you. You got a guaranteed interview. That doesn't mean you're going to get the job.
And it should be qualifications only.
Exactly. I mean, there was a recent, I think there was applying in my initial, I've stopped my application process, but in my initial application process to a PhD program, I was given the opportunity of other in regards to race, but not with gender. I think there was one other category, but that was, I didn't get that option for gender.
And that's where this conversation comes from, because Jared filled out other for race with regards to his race, and he was just like, it doesn't matter anymore, and I'm not going to do that. We're not going to put in white, black, Hispanic, and no, we don't need to. Are you qualified? Yes. And those are the staples in which we now need to. So again, when I talk about segregation, get away from it. And now we're just segregating away from ignorant people. And we're going to be, and like Jared said, if you're going to listen to Fox News, also listen to NPR, and
at least listen to NPR or something.
Just listen
to a counterpart of that. Shit, listen to MSNBC. I don't care.
But listen to something different.
But listen to something else. Yeah.
To broaden your perspective, broaden your scope, so you can come to your own conclusion. Exactly. I mean, look, this whole, critical race theory shit is driving me the fuck crazy, because I think everybody should have it to a certain extent. I think you should be cognizant of, is this fair? Is this benefiting all of us as a whole? Or is this like a capitalist system that wants to continue to marginalize? Yeah. Marginalize us. And
marginalize,
subjugate us.
Suppress,
yes,
subjugate. Exactly. Keep in power. Florida recently passed a law that teachers can't even make white students feel uncomfortable.
If the parents, if a child goes home and says, I feel uncomfortable because I'm white.
Or I felt uncomfortable when Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so said blah, blah, blah. Are you
talking about white fragility?
And a teacher's license is up for that.
Listen, you talk about white fragility and white privilege. They argued up and down last year. I'm offended when you say white privilege. Don't call me a snowflake, white fragility. But here we are having states enact legislation to say, if I'm feeling fragile and unprivileged, I don't want to be part of it. Fuck that shit.
Exactly.
Look, I can understand why.
I mean, Oklahoma has a similar law, by the way.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I bet.
I'm just saying. Like,
it's like
if an Oklahoma teaches anything remotely considered divisive, their license is revoked. Period.
Well, look, the Christians are going into schools in Ohio and West Virginia trying to, what do you call it?
Proselytize.
Yeah, proselytize the students, and the Jewish students are like, what the fuck are y'all doing?
Exactly.
If a rabbi went into a fucking school, real shit, and had the kids recant Hebrew, the Shema or anything, people would be like, I'm speaking voodoo. I don't want to do this. I mean, I'm not kidding. Christians would freak the fuck out. So imagine if the Muslims came in and did it, or the Buddhists came in. How dare you? Let me explain something about when I meet a real Christian, like my brother here, who loves God and loves people, and once and will say he will tell you Jesus is his Lord and Savior, and he loves reading the Bible for its benefits and its positivity. I think that gives me goosebumps with beauty. Like, this is another human being. I'm going to be
fair and say that I more question it than anything.
All right, I know, right? I'm painting a big picture.
Again, at the same, I think we've said this before. I mean, what kind of faith do you have if you can't question it? So I've been in the questioning phase for quite some time. So,
and with that being said, me coming from a religion where if you don't question, what's wrong with you?
yeah.
So it's like, and even, but hold on, we still got people in every religion that you just look at like, or you're in a cult. But with that being said, and this is where
Oh,
we
when you said
again,
if you're for us or against us, yeah, that's a cult, buddy.
yeah, right.
If you
We
get to that
draw
point, yeah, if you draw that line, you're in a cult.
Draw that line. You're in a fucking cult. Just stay over there. Stay
Yep,
over
yeah,
there.
you stay. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, segregation. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
right. Keep
we're
your
good.
crazy ass over there.
You do
Are you
you,
good? Are
but
you
don't bring it over
kind?
here. I'm just saying.
It may seem simple, but quite honestly, that really is how it should be. Very simple. It
Yeah,
shouldn't be convoluted and contrived. It should be, are you kind? Are you good? Are you doing your best? Like, we're here because we're all trying our best. We're all looking
exactly.
for a semblance of peace and contentment on this planet, and to make
You
it
know,
through.
and it encourages me that if the white supremacists that were portrayed in these docuseries or that were presented in these docuseries, if individuals like that who were so indoctrinated and ingrained in their beliefs to commit all kinds of atrocities
Yeah.
to people of different color,
Yeah.
if they were able to convert or wake up, God, I hate that. It just,
I know.
real quick, if you're using the term woke, you're insinuating that you're asleep. Shut the fuck
right.
up. Leave me alone.
Right.
If you're saying that I'm
Thank
woke,
you.
that means that you're asleep and you don't know what the fuck is going on.
Thank you.
Go away. Leave me alone.
Figure
That's
the fuck
it.
out.
I've had to say it. There's my PSA.
I'm
Anyway,
done.
where was I? Shit.
Sorry.
Uh,
I'm tired of
but
that.
if
It's like,
but if someone like that, if a white supremacist like that can actually convert their beliefs to advocate for humanity and speak out against that kind of radicalization, call it out for what it is, and then even mentor people who are like, man, I think I'm in a cult. Can you help me out? Yeah, let me help you out.
Right.
If that's happening, that kind of help that I'm stoked about that. If there are folks out there like that, then for me, that sparks hope.
Yeah.
So anyway.
No, because I choose to look for every win. I do.
Yeah.
And I'm not delusional. And I'm a fucking nurse. Like, I know life and death every fucking time I go to work because I'm in the ER. Like, it's real shit. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with that being said, I'm not delusional. So if I'm telling you, I choose to look for positivity, I choose to be a happy person. I am fighting for this life I'm living. And I want it to be as positive as it possibly can be, because I know how fragile it is. So if I'm telling you, it's instead of criticizing me for desiring to live in a utopia, why don't you start examining your life and saying, am I choosing to be worried about shit I have no control over? Exactly. So how about you start working with the things you do have control over? That's your perception. That's your personality. That's how you interact with people. This is how you say, you know what? You're not being a nice person right now. I gotta go.
Yeah.
So and when that person comes around, you're there. I'm here. But because I'm the same. I've given it to you. I don't know what else to do. And with that being said, what's our time, my love?
I think we're right about that time. So yeah, no, I totally agree with what I would just say I would question the person who is criticizing you in regards to living in a utopia and wonder, well, why don't you want to live in a utopia?
There's that question, y'all.
What's so wrong with the utopia? Why, in Rodney King's words, why can't we all get along?
Hello.
I mean, Just saying. So I mean,
know.
you want to come at Monet? You want to come at my sister for wanting to live in a utopia? Fuck you. Why don't you?
That's why he's my brother. Look, real shit.
Just saying. Why don't you? What's the problem?
What's the problem?
Anyway, so with that being said, Monet, final word, my sister.
Final words is, when I look at this camera, and sometimes we just do Zoom to talk, I do see my brother. I see what society may perceive him as, a white man, but I see my brother. And I want the world to start looking at individuals in their lives, not based on the color of their skin, but definitely based on the content of the character. See, his speech, Martin Luther King's speech, wasn't just a fantasy. It is definitely reality. And I see this every time, and I hear this every time we talk. And trust me, like I say, if you guys haven't already heard, he knows more about my life than anybody.
Yeah.
He really, really is my brother. And with that being said, God bless everyone. Thank you all very much. Love you. Bye.